I'm going to do that thing where I sort of off the cuff and unscripted and unprompted and unasked for, just sort of comment on a heated political topic as sort of a lightning rod for like, just kind of bad actors and trolls to kind of come in there and just sort of engagement farm and all that. Because I just wanted to talk about this topic because there's like a lot of misinformation about the topic of transgender athletes in the world and certainly in the mind of the President of the United States. So we're going to take a couple minutes and I'm going to yap about that. And then we're going to play Legend of Zelda. Because if we look over here, there was a big story where Trump is denying Maine like federal funding because of their refusal to comply with an executive order about like transgender athletes. And there's a lot to it, and it's something that makes me mad in a number of different ways. Where the kind of thing that's been going around is like sort of a clip where they were talking to each other, and then Trump was like saying, "Oh, are you going to comply with our executive order?" And then the governor, Mills, was saying, "I'm complying with state and federal law because they have a state law that allows transgender athletes to compete in sports, right?" And then Trump said, "Oh, well, we are the federal law. You better do it because you're not going to get federal funding," which is not legal, by the way. Yes, while executive orders direct the government to enforce laws, they cannot override federal laws or statutes independently. And so Mills said, "See you in court." And so, this part was funny. Trump then said, "Enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be elected in politics." And then this local news story had this line right after, which was like, "Mills is actually term limited and cannot seek re-election for a third consecutive term, so it kind of doesn't matter." And that was kind of funny. But yeah, so the whole thing is that like you'd hear about this and you'd be like, "Wow, this must be a big important issue that's going on." And the thing is that it isn't. Like a lot of these laws about like transgender athletes competing in sports on a level of not professional. We're talking about in school. We're talking about grade schoolers. We're talking about high schoolers. We're talking about college students. Like we're not talking about a lot of people. So a lot of the time this comes down to naming and like shaming people, individual people in the schools, and trying to like target like laws at specific people. Because here, let's just go to this part where this is the Portland Press Herald. How many transgender students are competing in high school sports in Maine? Obviously, they don't know a specific number for this year, but there is, so until April 2023, transgender athletes were required to obtain waivers to participate. And during the 10-year lifespan from 2013 to 2023, a total of 57 transgender students asked for waivers. So this is a big debacle over, let's see, we can make an estimation here. 2013 to 2023, that's 10 years, 60 people. Let's say an average of 6 people. This could be a huge debacle over 6 human beings trying to play sports in school. Can we please let them live and not make it, something that we're like at a national level, like butting heads over, and everyone's giving opinions on the thing of can these 6 people per year play sports where they want to? It's and it's to the point where it's like people, and someone did in one of these stories. I don't remember which one, but a lot of this came up because there was a Republican who actually literally posted an image of a high schooler for their national audience to berate because they won and they were transgender. And that to me seems like it should be illegal, frankly. But yeah, so like a lot of it that here, this is one thing that makes me mad and specifically makes me call out the misinformation, because I've actually talked about this before, which is that Trump said this before signing the executive order, where he said, this is on CNN also, who could forget last year's Paris Olympics where a male boxer stole the women's gold medal after brutalizing his female opponent so viciously that she had to forfeit just after 46 seconds. And she was a championship fighter. And actually, they had 2 women, or 2 people, which is so generous of Trump to, wow, thank you so much, that transitioned, and both of them won gold medals, and they won them very convincingly, Trump said. That sounds like it would be bad, right? If you're hearing this. And I'm sure Trump heard this because this has been parroted since the Paris Olympics, that there were 2 transgender boxers who beat their opponents like you do in boxing. And people were like, that's not fair. They're transgender, except they're not. And it's extremely, extremely dumb that this is like constantly going on, because this is verifiable fact, is that the 2 Olympic champions, Maine and Lin Yuting, got them. They never transitioned. They're both identified as female at birth and have always competed as women. And they're not transgender at all. I think it's honestly just because they are buff people that they're like, oh, well, clearly I have a predefined notion of what gender is, and that doesn't fit what I think it is, so they've got to be this other thing. When, like, if you just ever look at people who, like, bodybuild, you're like, oh, yeah, you can make your body look really buff, no matter who you are, if you work at it. And it's so dumb, because also we know transgender athletes in the Olympics. This is a personal person's website, but I'm pretty sure all the information is correct. It's correct enough because it's all verifiable. And in the 2024 Olympics, there were 3 people who were transgender and non-binary, and they were all non-binary. So there were no transgender people who competed. They could, they're allowed to, but there weren't any. There was Nikki Hiltz, non-binary, U.S. track and field, Quinn, non-binary Canadian, and Raven Saunders, track and field, non-binary. No one in boxing, no one transgender, and typically it's 3 people. Even that, it's 3 people, it's 2 people, it's 6 people, you know? Like, we can't make laws to target 6 people. That doesn't make any sense. Even if it was more people, let people live. Like, I've gone over, like, how, like, complicated all these things can get. But, like, whether you put transgender athletes in one gender, whether you put them in another gender of a sport, they're, if you just cut it right down the middle and you say, this is what we have to do, everyone goes in this camp, it creates problems because gender is a wide spectrum. And this is not going to get into any of that. It's just about people are hearing these like insanely untrue things, believing them, and making laws and trying to withhold federal funding from an entire state because of it. And it's the thing because it's like it is in Maine's state law that transgender athletes can compete in whichever section they want to, right? Like whatever matches their gender identity, they can just go and pick it. That's their state law. It's currently a state's right to decide that. And the Republican Party is the party usually of states' rights, where they say, we want everything to be ascribed per state, right? Abortion, transgender stuff, books, I don't know, laws about tacos, whatever laws they want. They're like extremely in the camp of like it should all be the states' rights. The central federal government shouldn't decide these things, except apparently when it's something that they disagree with. And that doesn't seem like that should be the case either. And as you can see, what will happen is, you know, this someone said, can Trump actually do that? Maybe up to the courts to decide. Who knows? But the thing about this as well is that like a lot of people are also calling Susan Collins, you know, just like a liberal Democrat. I want to like, is this the place that says it? Yeah, right here. She's a Republican. She's a Republican governor. And she's just like, no, I'm actually a Republican also. This is just that bad of an idea. And, you know, it's just one of these things where it's like, I will go down this rabbit hole and I'll just get super mad. And then I'll be like, damn, what a way to spend my day. But I want to say that if there are people out here who are watching who are transgender, keep being there, keep being in public, do sports if you want to do sports, keep living because you are great and you're fantastic. And you should just be allowed to live and do whatever you want to, because what the fuck is the government got to do with anything when it comes to this? I don't know. That's what makes me so upset. Is I'm like, why are we doing this at all? And also, fuck you, Donald Trump.